Snow whispered through the pines like secrets carried on the wind. The valley lay quiet, blanketed in white, save for the sound of an axe striking wood, steady, determined, almost defiant against the storm. She swung again, her breath visible in the frozen air, her cheeks flushed from cold and grit. Her name was Evelyn Hart, a woman who had lost everything, but refused to stop building. Out here, in the shadow of the Montana mountains, she was rebuilding her life one log at a time. The half-finished cabin stood as her fortress and her prayer. Every beam she raised, every log she fitted, was a promise to herself that she could still belong to this harsh land. Her hands were raw, her coat torn, but her eyes burned with purpose. Then she heard it, the soft crunch of hooves behind her. She froze, gripping the axe tighter. Turning slowly, she saw him, a man on horseback, shoulders dusted with snow, his hat pulled low. A stranger, yet something in the way he set the saddle spoke of quiet sorrow. His name, though she didn't know it yet, was Caleb Rourke, a widower, a man haunted by the ghosts of his past, and the kind of silence that follows loss. Caleb stopped a few paces away, his horse steaming in the cold. "You shouldn't be out here alone," he said, voice rough as gravel. Evelyn straightened. "I'm not alone," she replied, eyes steady. "I've got work to do." He watched her for a long moment, the strength in her shoulders, the fire in her stance. Something stirred in him that had been quiet for years. "Storm's comin' fast," he warned, glancing at the dark clouds rolling over the ridge. "So is the night." Evelyn turned back to her cabin. "Then I'd best hurry," she said, lifting another log. Caleb wanted to ride on, but watching her fight the storm alone, something in his chest refused to let him leave. He dismounted, took a slow step forward, and without a word, reached for the other end of the log. Evelyn looked up, startled, then nodded. Together, they lifted. The snow thickened, the wind howled, but for the first time in a long while, neither of them felt quite as alone. As the wind howled through the mountains, a story began, one built from loss, courage, and the faint hope that even in the coldest winter, hearts could find warmth again. If you're drawn into this storm of love and survival, and trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. The wind screamed harder as the storm rolled down from the mountains, swallowing the valley in white. Each log they lifted felt like a battle against the wild itself, yet there was rhythm between them, a wordless understanding born from shared struggle. Caleb's hands were calloused, strong from years of ranch work. He tied the ropes tight, his movements sure and calm. Still, she didn't trust easily. She'd learned that the world gave more pain than comfort, and strangers didn't stay long in these parts. "Why'd you come this far north?" she asked finally, breaking the silence. Caleb paused, snow clinging to his beard. "Wasn't looking for much," he said. "Just somewhere the wind don't carry memories." Evelyn glanced at him, the flicker of pain in his words striking something deep within her. She nodded, saying nothing more, and went back to work. For a while, all that filled the space between them was the thud of tools and the groan of timber settling into place. When dusk fell, the storm turned fierce. The wind clawed at the cabin walls, and snow buried their boots. Caleb looked toward his horse, shivering under a pine. "You'll freeze out there," Evelyn said, motioning to the door. "Bring him inside the lean-to." He hesitated, unused to kindness. "You sure?" "Wouldn't offer twice," she replied. Evelyn stirred a pot of thin stew while Caleb brushed the snow from his coat. The air smelled of smoke and pine, and for a moment, it almost felt like home, though neither dared to admit it. "Your husband?" Caleb asked softly. Evelyn's hands stilled. "Gone 3 winters now." Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed the ache beneath. "Yours?" Caleb looked into the fire. "Gone longer than I care to count." Silence fell, but it wasn't heavy, just real. To broken souls, thawing by the same flame. Inside, for the first time in years, both felt the faint pulse of warmth, not from the fire, but from hope. Evelyn glanced at him across the flickering light. "Tomorrow, we'll finish the roof," she said. Caleb nodded. "Then I reckon I'll stay till the storm passes." Neither of them knew it yet, but the storm outside was only the beginning. The real one was in their hearts, and it was just starting to break. If this moment touched you, stay with their story. Subscribe now. By morning, The storm had buried the world in silence. Snow stretched like an ocean, smooth and endless, and the sky glowed pale with the promise of dawn. Evelyn stood by the window, hands wrapped around a tin cup of coffee, watching the frozen horizon. Caleb slept in the corner by the fire, his coat draped over his shoulders. Maybe it was the sound of another breath in the room, or maybe it was the simple fact that someone had stayed. Still, she reminded herself, people always leave, storms always end. When Caleb stirred, he blinked into the light and muttered, "Didn't think I'd see morning." Evelyn smirked faintly. Storm wasn't as mean as it sounded. He rubbed his eyes and gave a slow nod. "Neither are you." She turned away before he could see her blush. Compliments weren't something she trusted. They carried too much weight in a world that demanded you earn every ounce of kindness. Yet something about his voice felt honest. It wasn't perfect, but it was shelter, and in the wilderness, that was enough. Caleb climbed down from the ladder, dusted his gloves, and looked at the cabin with quiet admiration. "You did this all alone?" "Started with nothing," Evelyn said. "Lost my husband to fever. Lost the house to fire. Figured I'd either rebuild or freeze. So I rebuilt." He studied her, eyes filled with something between sorrow and respect. "You're tougher than most men I've met." Evelyn gave a dry laugh. "That's 'cause most men I've met left when things got hard." Their eyes met, just for a moment, and in that look was a spark of something fragile yet powerful. Not love, not yet, but the recognition of another survivor. By sunset, the wind quieted. The cabin stood proud, smoke curling gently from its chimney. It felt almost peaceful, too peaceful. Maybe somewhere beyond the tree line. A faint echo carried through the cold. A crack, distant, like a rifle shot. Caleb's head snapped up, eyes narrowing. Evelyn stepped out, hand instinctively going to her revolver. The wilderness that had seemed so still moments ago suddenly felt alive and watching. Their eyes met again, this time in silent understanding. Whatever was out there, it wasn't the storm they'd just survived. It was something worse, and for the first time, Caleb knew he couldn't just ride away. He had found a reason to stay. If you felt the chill, the fire, and the heartbeat of this frontier moment, subscribe now. The next chapter will test their courage, their hearts, and what it truly means to rebuild from nothing.